Okay, so we are going to go through the law of process. So this is the third law that we're going through today. And the law of process basically says leaders develop daily, not in a day. So think about that for a minute. So leaders develop daily, but not in a day. So that's all that is saying is if you look over time, it takes a lot of intentional investment in becoming a leader over an extended period of time in order for you to become a good leader. There's no way for you to just say, well, I went through the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. I'm now a leader, or I went through the leadership challenge. Now I'm a leader. No, we want to do that. We want to say, I read the book. I'm now a professional investor. I've read up on rugby. Now I'm a professional rugby player, right? It just doesn't work that way. Yeah. I remember when I actually was, before I was a parent, I read a lot of books on parenting. Okay. And I remember just thinking, I got this thing nailed. Like, I'm going to get the kids to sleep well and they're never going to cry. And within the first week, I literally just threw out all this stuff. I thought, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay. And so there's something about just time that and intentionality that eventually produces something, right, over time. You know, Dan, you're experiencing this, right? You're doing bigger deals now, but you had to start somewhere. Yeah. And you do keep doing it every single day, making the phone call, making the phone call, making the phone call, and having a lot of failures. Yeah. In order for you to say, I've become over time a really good producer. Yeah. Right? True. Just didn't happen like that. A lot of time. And Tom, the same thing for you. You had to spend a lot of time day in, day out, day in, day out, in order for you to become really aware and understanding this industry so that you could pass that on to other people within the firm. You know, so that you could actually share that with other people and they go, oh my gosh, you know so much stuff. Yeah. But that took a lot of time, a lot of intentionality, and every single day. So it's no different for leadership. We have to practice this stuff day in, day out, and be super intentional about it. Agreed. So if I, had a wish for you guys, is actually you have experienced, again, version 2.0 of Dave. I wish you could experience 1.0, not that you could experience the bad stuff, but that you could see like, oh my gosh, you've gone through 20 years of like all these things. And I saw you way back then when you knew nothing, had no idea what you were talking about. And, so today, all of this stuff that I can share now was 20 years of just a lot of day in, day out, day in, day out of investment into leadership and experiences and failures and successes and wins and losses so that I can say no or yes, that makes sense. Let's go this direction. Let's pull back. Let's hit the gas, right? All of those things cumulatively add up to the experiences. Mackie said that. She's like, I don't understand that you know that. And I'm like, Mackie, this has been 20 years. Don't get too excited. Don't elevate me too high. I mean, this is 20 years of cumulative experiences that compound over time. You guys could probably experience the same thing in your own life, right? Like you, Tom, with cars. Yeah. Like, how many cars have you had to work on to go like, oh, I get that. I know what that is, right?
Yeah.
Just tons and tons of experience for us. What we tend to do is we tend to overestimate an event, okay? And we tend to underestimate process. I'm the worst at this. I literally want it to happen now I told that to my business partner on the RV park the other day. We're driving, and we're almost done with the fundraise, and he said, it's gonna be okay. And I said, I know, but I don't want it to be done now.
Nah.
So, and he goes, I appreciate your honesty. And I said, that's my blessing and curse.
Yeah.
Okay. I said, that helps me get stuff done. But the other side of the coin is it's not good, right?
Yeah.
Because you can get yourself into trouble. So we tend to overestimate, go, no, I can get this down today. And then I underestimate process. You have to have time. People have to bake for a while to beat up success. So what are your thoughts on that so far?
I agree.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. Like, yeah, people are in a rush and they want to, skip through that process piece, and just focus on the result, not focus on the how, to get there or what needs to be done or whatnot. They just want to, the instant gratification almost of not going through the hard work to get there.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, I agree. I think I look at like one thing my dad actually always tells me is like, hey, you see one of his friends, like he's like, yeah, you see what he has right now, right? You don't know what he had to go through for that. Like the process getting there was really brutal.
Yeah.
And so he's like, you see the end result, but for Kevin over there, he had to, go through a bankruptcy, go through a failing business. He had to learn from all of his failures. And now you're just seeing the end result. So it's not, he makes it look easy now, but it wasn't.
Yeah. So true. Process comes with a lot of failure.
It's true.
John says, if you are persistent, you will get it. Okay. So think about that. If you're persistent, you'll get it. But if you're consistent, you'll keep it. Okay. So think about those statements for a minute. If you're persistent, you will get it. You can, we're working on this new fund and there's been a lot of persistence, like, okay, we got this done. I got that done. I got, so it's like persistence of you can get it, but it takes consistency for you to keep it.
Yeah.
Okay. So you could be the kind of person that gets the girl, but you could not be consistent and lose the girl, right? You could be the person that gets the deal, but you could be the person that loses the relationship because you're not consistent, right? So just think about that statement. Probably applies everywhere.
Yeah.
In life, but specifically for leadership, is we need to be persistent. It's a good thing, but we need to be consistent. That's probably more important.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. And
it's like if you get successful, you stop making your calls, and then what happens then?
100%.
It makes sense.
You hear it all the time. Like they're like, oh my gosh, my pipeline's dried up and I'm not seeing, you're like, well, did you do the activities that got you to where you wanted to go? I used to do this with men all the time that I meet with men's groups, and they'd come in a mess. Their life is a mess. And then all of a sudden over 6-9 months, they were coming consistently, getting poured into, had accountability, they were growing. And then next thing you know, they're like, hey, I'm not going to come anymore. And I said, well, no, I don't know if that's a good idea. You've been doing really well because you've been here. You probably should stay. And without fail, 9 times out of 10, they'd leave. And 6 months later, we'd be back in the same situation, right? Because they just didn't want to be consistent. And it's just hard to do that.
Yeah, I think they're all good now because they feel good and then they go right back.
I got it all figured out.
And
that's the danger zone for us, right? Remember, John Waters always talks about success is the greatest enemy of success.
Yeah.
John says the right thing to do and the hard thing to do usually are the same. Okay, so the right thing to do and the hard thing to do are typically the same. Okay. Serving the client, delighting the client is the right thing to do. And it is also the hard thing to do because we want to cut corners or, work on what it is that we think is best. But ultimately it's the right thing to do, but it's also the hard thing. to do. There's a lot of work that goes into it. So John goes on to say, he says, he always used to ask, how long is it going to take for me to become a great leader? That's all the time. How long? How long? How long?
Yeah.
5 years. Great. I want to hit that 5-year marker. He finally got there and he said, number one, I'm not there. And number two, he said, I began stop asking, how long is it going to take? And he started asking, how far can I go? A big difference. So not how long is this going to take me, but how far could I go is a different question that we should be asking as leaders, is how far can we take this? Dan's like, I don't know if we'll get there. Maybe we will, maybe we won't, right? But we were going to shoot for it, and it's going to stretch us beyond anything we can imagine. And that's just a fun question to like, how far could we go? Could we do 2 billion in revenue? I think so, but I don't know, right?
Yeah.
But we're going to shoot for it. And it'll stretch us way beyond anything we could ever imagine. If you said, no, let's just stick with, 20 million. That seems like doable, and that'll make us a little more comfortable, right? His kind of landing statements is, he says, a lot of us want the leadership microwave. Okay, he calls it the Pop-Tart leaders. You see a lot of those on social media, just like, they got 1 million followers, and you say, well, they got a lot of followers, so they must be a great leader. And it says, no, probably not necessarily. If it's a Pop-Tart leader, you just kind of quick up, quick down. Okay. Because there's no time for building character in your leadership bones, and we need to think more in crock pot. Okay, this stuff has got to simmer, it's got to marinate, it takes time, and that's when real character starts to form, is when we do it consistently and persistently. We do it over time, and we let it marinate so that we can really see change start to happen, transformation in our life. And that's when the compounding effect starts to happen, because you cannot, I wish you could, but you cannot accelerate character development. You just can't. It just, you might be able to accelerate things with technology, but you just cannot develop character overnight. It just takes time, and it takes consistency. So that's the law of process. Do you guys have any comments, statements you'd like to add?
The one thing that came to mind is, on the right thing to do and the hard thing to do are typically the same. I wonder if that's more of the right thing to do, and the thing that appears hard are typically are typically the same. Because I think sometimes when you actually do the hard thing, you find that it's actually the easier path, and it's actually it only appears to be the harder path. But once you realize what you gain from it, it's like, well, that really wasn't that much effort for the gain. In some cases, when you look back.
Yeah, it's a good thought, Tom, and it's almost probably a tweak on that might be, the perception is hard. I'd even say maybe it's it is upfront hard. Better back end, right? Where if you make bad decisions, as we always talk to our kids about, like you go path A, it's going to be really miserable in the long run. You go path B, it's harder on the front end and it's easier on the back end. It's kind of like, you either pay now or play later, or play now and pay later, right? It's kind of thing. So it's super true.
I agree.
Good.
Yeah, I think I like the character forms and do it consistently and persistently. Because that does build, like, something that could seem so mundane could be so impactful, where it's like the calls every day. Like when I started here and Dave was like, just make your calls, they'll be fine. I'm like, wow, that's gonna be really annoying after 2 years just making calls. Just making calls. And so
I know.
it's like, but then it builds character, because like the fact that I listen, first of all, I have a kind of like basically submit to like the idea of, all right, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna listen to Dave because he's my leader.
Yeah.
And then also to stay consistent with, I've seen the impact of it. So,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
just, I had to kind of set my own mind aside to say, I'm gonna trust Dave and I'm gonna do
Yeah.
this. So,
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, just to trust the process. You know, a
Yeah.
lot of times we have to trust process, which is really good for us to remember as we develop process.
yeah,
I mean, think about it, like we talk about process a lot here, proactive processes, and there's a reason why. It's almost a peace of mind baton that you get to hand off to somebody, right? Say, I've done this, it works. It's not perfect,
yeah,
but it's consistent and it's permanent. And if you follow it and you do it over time, you're going to find out it pays off.
yeah,
And you get to bypass go,
yeah.
and you don't have to go to jail, so to speak, right? A monopoly. So it's good for us to remember there is process. Process matters. Process is not sexy.
Mhm.
You know, a mentor of mine used to always say, getting wealthy is typically boring.
Yeah,
Okay. That's why most people won't do it. Because we always want that like quick fix.
yeah,
But if you stay process and you do it over time, you look back and go, wow, I can't believe I got there. And so it's fun to watch that over time, as I can attest in my own journey. I'm like, wow, that
Yeah.
actually works.
Agreed.
So that's the law of process. So good